कृपा ओम कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। कृष्ण भगवान की जय। गीता माता की जय। हरि ओम। So today we are discussing second chapter and 54th stanza. Arjuna uvacha स्थितः प्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधिः किं प्रभासेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम. Now Arjuna is asking some questions to Arjuna, Lord Krishna, because now in the end of Krishna's dialogue, he emphasized upon the one-pointed mind which can lead you to the absolute. Samatvam yoga uchyate. He talked about the equanimity of the mind and samadhi, one-pointed state of mind. And many times he emphasized upon this one-pointed mind. And he gave some ways how to attain that one-pointedness of the mind. So now naturally one will ask, what is the state of that one-pointedness? That is called sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means one whose intellect is strongly established on that one-pointedness, that equilibrium of the mind. So naturally, Arjuna asked this question, O Krishna, what is the description of him? Means definition. What is the state of this such a being whose mind is strongly established on that one-pointed state? O Krishna, what is the description of him who has steady wisdom and is moored in the superconscious state? How can we understand, and what are the indications of his being? How can we understand this person has such a mind? Some symptoms must be there, some indication. How do you define such a person? How does one of steady wisdom speak when the mind is totally established on that one-pointedness? So can he speak then? If at all he speaks, how he will speak? and all other activities also. So he is repeating, how does one of steady wisdom speak? How does he sit? And how does he walk? How his body will activate, his senses will activate, his mind or other composing parts of his being will activate because he is totally merged in that superconscious state. Can he do all this? Natural doubt everyone will have. So Arjuna asked this question to Krishna. Arjuna wants to know from Lord Krishna the characteristics, marks of one who is established in the self, in samadhi. One who is established in samadhi, can he walk, can he speak? No. So does he speak? Does he walk? If at all, then how? And how he speaks, how he sits, how he moves about. His mind is totally merged. So it will be, if it will be a question like, according to our views, we always give the example of the empty sky, the sky within the empty pot, isn't it? Say it is earthen pot. If you break down that pot, the limiting form is destroyed. That means the sky has become one with the outer sky. So now, similar is the case with the samadhist, one who is established in samadhi. He has become one with the inner sky of the pot. He has no idea of the pot. So how that sky within the pot will behave? Isn't it? So now, the characteristics, marks of the sage of steady wisdom and the means of attaining that steady wisdom. How does attain that state? Established in the self. What is the way? How it is described in the verses, in these 3 verses, Lord Krishna will explain. In 3 verses, 55, 56 and 57, the answer to Arjun's question. So now let us see. Lord Krishna answers, Prajahati jada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmaneva atmana tushtaha sthita prajna tadauchyate. The definition of sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means whose mind is established in that absolute steadiness. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman eva tanatushtaha sthita prajnant aduchyate. When a man completely casts off, O Arjuna, all the desires of the mind and is established in this self by the self, established in the self by the self, then he is said to be one of steady wisdom. He is called Sthita Prajna. In ordinary language he says, when one casts off all the desires, desires are the root cause of restlessness of the mind, that we have discussed so many times, repeatedly. Desires are the root cause for our bondage in this, with this body. That is the root cause of the falling into the cycle of birth and death. That is the cause of attachment and everything, whatever we do. And that is the desires are nothing but clingingness to the sense objects. We have seen in Yoga Vasishtha, we have discussed it so many times. You see, we have seen here also Lord Krishna has given us some hints. Matra sparsastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkha. He has already given us some hints. How we feel pain and pleasure by the outgoing tendency of the thoughts, and they get associated with the sense objects, and they get slowly, if it is repeated again and again, then we get attachment to the objects, and that's how we develop desires to have it. We feel incompleteness. Why? You know, the technical point is there. When that object is seen outside us, because of our identity with the body, body is limited. That is the root cause. Cause of the causes. The first root cause is body sense. We have accepted this body to be I, and that's how it is limited, and that's how we see the world outside it, and then the inside thoughts go outside. All this happens only when we are limited within the body. And then what happens? The world is seen outside, not within. And then the thoughts go outside and get attached or associated with the objects of the senses. And then slowly attachment develops. And because all these are outside me, so I feel a sense of incompleteness of those objects outside. It is not within me. So naturally the desires develop. Desires for what? To have completeness. I feel the need of those objects. This is the technical point. This is what natural, and this stands upon the first identification of I with the body. Body is limited, and body has everything in limits. That's how we develop desires, attachment for the sense objects, and then we go for fulfilling the desires, and then the matter prolongs endlessly, and we are in the clutches of desires, and then desires are dependent on time, space, and conditions, situations, and that also is influenced by our pre-state, what state we had before this body. We had passed so many bodies, and we have collected so much impressions previously that has also influence over the present body and present desires and fulfilling all these. So it becomes so complicated, so complicated. To get out of it is not an easy joke. So Lord Krishna gives simple facts. When the desires are just abandoned, how it has to be done, of course that is different. But when it happens, when we have controlled all the desires, that means we have no desires at all. Then what happens? Mind has no work. The thought process has no activity now, no desires. Then it will not go out to have association with the sense objects. That was only because of fulfilling the desires, because of attachment. So all these are gone from the root itself. The tree is not cut off, but it is rooted out. So there is no chance of any more possibility of the tree. It cannot survive. In this way, Lord Krishna gives us the simple way when the desires are cut off completely. Arjuna, all the desires of the mind and is established in the self, then what remains? Only the steadiness of mind remains. It is but a natural process. You have to struggle to cast off the desires, not to attain steadiness of mind. This point should be clear. If we fight with the mind and struggle to have one-pointedness, that becomes difficult. But if we are able to reject all the desires, we get rid of the desires, then automatically mind has to stop. It has got no work. Mind creates these, means all these thought process starts because of the support of these sense objects. Mind has to be supported with something. Mind is not independent. These sense objects are support for the mind to run ceaselessly. So if it is not there, naturally the mind has to keep quiet. He says, when the man completely casts off, O Arjuna, all the desires of the mind and is satisfied in the self. It has attained that one point and that is called self. It is established in it by itself. So he says, by the self. It gets the self by the self, attains that state by the self. That means automatically, without any struggle. That is, he is said to be, then only he is said to be Sthita Prajna, a man whose mind is steadied. Now the definition of Sthita Prajna. In this verse, Lord Krishna gives his answer to the first part of Arjun's question. Question was, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasa. Bhasa means definition, description. How you say he is Sthita Prajna. Bhasa means not language here. Bhasa means your language. How do you define? If anyone gets sugar candy, have you tasted sugar candy? Let us take honey. If anyone gets honey, will he be crave? Will he crave for black sugar, ordinary sugar, or jaggery? Will he wish for it? One who has got the friendship with the supermarket, will he go to ordinary market to purchase some leaves of vegetable? So this is how Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna. One whose mind is established, he will not crave for the sense objects, that is, he will not run behind the desires. If anyone can attain the supreme bliss of the self, will he thirst for the sensual pleasures? No, not at all. The sum total of all the pleasures of the world will seem worthless for the sage of steady wisdom, who is satisfied in the self itself. That means he has attained he has tasted the bliss of the self. So all other happiness, worldly happiness, momentary, transitory happiness, ever-changing happiness seems to be useless for him. Then naturally he will enjoy that bliss of the self. This is how we define Sthita Prajna. Okay. Ka bhasa, how it is described. Samadhistasya kesava sthitadhi kim prabhaseta. How does he speak? Then is it possible for him to speak? If at all he speaks, then how? What will be his language? And how he does sit? Does he sit forever in one posture? Does he not get up from the single posture? And does he not walk? How does he walk? Because his mind is not working. So will the senses work? If the mind, the commander-in-chief, is silently closed up in a black room, dark room, then how will the army will fight the battle? Senses are the army, and the mind is the major general, the commander-in-chief. If the commander-in-chief is closed in the dark room without any communications, then how do this army work? How do the senses work? Will he speak? Will he walk about? Natural question. So Lord Krishna says, Dukkhesu anudibna manaha, sukhesu vigata sprihaha, vitaraga bhaya krodhaha, sitadhihi muni uchyate. That ascetic, that seeker, who has attained that steadiness of mind, he will have these symptoms. What are they? Dukkha and sukha. Dukkhesu anudvigna manaha. When the problems, miseries, and all sorts of physical pain appears before him, he is not perturbed because he has overcome the body sense. And mind is steadied. So he will not react to all this pain and pleasure of the worldly parlance. He has no reaction for it. He will just witness it, and neither he will be glad when he gets something desirable, and he will not be sorry if he doesn't get it or something opposite comes to him by chance. Undesirable. His mind becomes calm and quiet. Mind doesn't react to it. He whose mind is not shaken by adversities, pain and pleasure, we have warned beforehand by Lord Krishna, O Arjuna, you have to get rid of these pairs of opposites. Sukhe dukhe same kritva, labha labho jaya jayo. Beforehand he has warned us. You should not pay attention to pain and pleasure and defeat and win. They are just passing clouds. You should not be perturbed by it. Now he is repeating the same thing in other terms. That is the symptom of a wise man. He whose mind is not shaken by the adversity, who does not hanker after the pleasures, and is free from attachment, fear, and anger. First, one quality, to be not reacting towards the pain and pleasure, and the second is going beyond all these enemies, our mental qualities, negative qualities, three qualities, they are most dangerous. Always they attack us and we are prey to it, and they overpower us and they dominate over us. These three qualities, raga, bhaya and krodha. With raga, bhaya, krodha, a man of wisdom will not have these three negative qualities. When the mind gets that equanimity, then naturally he overcomes all these negative qualities. Three qualities. Raga, attachment. We have seen it. Attachment is the attachment with what? With the sense subjects. Because of our association with it, because of the restlessness of mind, because of the outgoing tendency of the thoughts through the particular senses, and they get associated with the sense objects, they get attachment. This attachment is the root cause of many problems of our life. We can say all the problems. Raga, bhaya. This bhaya, fear. Fear is a most dangerous obstacle in the path of our life's journey and in the path of spiritual seekers also. We have always that fear. And where from this fear gets origin? The great seers have given us the formula. Dvetat bhayam bhavati. Dvetat bhayam bhavati. When there is two, there will be fear. Fear is the tendency of dualism, means the inner property of dualism. When there is duals, pairs of opposites, naturally there will be fear. How? We have seen it many times in our Yoga Vasishtha class. We always talk of relativity, isn't it? Always we shall have fear in relative world. For example, I saw always, if one finger is there, when there is absolutely one, there is no fear. If when there are two, then fear starts. How? See the practically what happens. Say, if one is there, is it big or small? No comparison, so no quality. Quality comes only when it is compared with the others. When one is there, there is no quality, it is qualityless. So it is non-conditional. No conditions can work over it. When there are two, the quality starts. How? Now this was neither big nor small, nor fat nor thin, nor strong nor weak. Nothing was there. No qualities were there. When the two appears, then all the fear with all these qualities, comparative qualities start. It was something, now it is bigger than this. So if it is bigger, why is bigger than this? So why should it fear? There is no reason. No, there is reason. If this is bigger than this is smaller than that, then this smaller has chance to become bigger. So one day or other there is change, because when there is two, there is comparison, change, and everything is there. So naturally smaller becomes bigger. This is what we see in the practical day-to-day life. Small child becomes young, young becomes old. Because he was small, then he became young. So this growth is the eternal growth, unseasoned growth is the nature's nature. So naturally, this bigger will have fear. If it becomes bigger than me, then I will be smaller and it will dominate over me. Naturally. So this is how we can compare it, we can discuss it in many other objects. When two are there, there is comparison and there is always change and there is always a fear. Dvetat bhayam bhavati. Now did you follow? Why fear is a must in dualistic world. Rag, attachment is also there because of repetition. And fear also is there. And then what other thing? Krodh. How this anger takes place? It is because of also these dualistic ideas. See, if this is bigger, suppose it is bigger, so it is small. Okay? So now if it becomes the bigger than this, of course it will have fear. And fear for what? It's dominating over it and creating trouble for its existence. So in this way, when your existence is in danger, naturally your desires are not always get fulfilled. So when the desires are not fulfilled, naturally there is a friction. You are in trouble. So when you are unable to get success because of some reasons, that's how the anger comes. Anger, your intellect gets bewildered, what to do. In that particular situation, when the intellect is unable to decide anything, inability gives rise to this anger. Failure, inability, loss of your desire, unfulfillment of your desire, all these are causes for anger. Of course, always this relative law is applicable. When there is truth, then only there will be anger. When there is truth, then only there will be fear. When there is truth, then only you have all the problems. So these negative qualities are born out of these pairs of opposites. That's how Lord Krishna in the beginning itself has warned us, Arjuna, the disciple, not to entertain these pairs of opposites, to control it, to go beyond it. Sukha dukkhesu. You should have equanimity. You should have indifference towards these pairs of opposites. Indifference is equanimity. Have no reaction towards it. Then only one can overcome these three negative qualities, and then he is said to be man of established, man of wisdom, established in truth or the equilibrium, one-pointed mind. This is how the mind of a sage of steady wisdom is not distressed in calamities. These calamities are of three varieties. Calamities, the adversities, they are of three types. He is not affected by the three afflictions. Tapas, tapa means pain or heat. It is understood as pain, disappointments. That is called tapas, three tapas, three kinds of adversities. It is said, adhyatmik, adhi-daivik and adhi-bhautik. Three kinds of adversities. Naturally, one is perturbed in these three type of calamities. What are they? Adhi-daivik, adhyatmik and adhi-bhautik. Adhyatmik. Now here, the adversities arising from diseases of the disorders in one's own body. Atma is taken as body here. We know Atma is a word. It is essential, meaning is essential point. Essence can be taken in anything. So everywhere there will be a center. If some object there is there, it will have a center, that is called Atma. So Atma changes according to your objects or anything you discuss. Atma means the self of it, the central point of it, the essence of it. So here we are talking of the person. So body is identical with, the I is identical with the body. So body is taken as the self. And when anything disorder happens, that is called disease. So physical diseases are called adhyatmik, related with Atma. Atma means here body. And then comes Adhidaivik. Daiv is here taken as the nature. We face natural adversities, calamities. Sometimes our crop is washed away by flood, sometimes by drought, and sometimes due to all other disturbance in the climatical conditions, natural conditions. Say there was landslide and there was cloud blast, many villages were washed away. So all these are Adhi Daivik. Daiva means it is taken as nature here. The controller of the all this visible world. That is nature. It is created by the nature and controlled by the nature. When the nature becomes imbalanced, then there will be calamities, adversities. That is called as Adhidaivik and Adhibhautik. Bhut means elements, 5 elements. Here Bhut are called beings, different kinds of beings. You see, human being is disturbed by wild animals, and wild animals are disturbed by human beings. Everywhere there is opposition. So naturally, when we are disturbed by the different kinds of beings, that is called Adhi Bhautik. Adhi Bhautik. In this way, 3 types of calamities which give rise to our problems and sufferings, where there is cause for disturbance of the mind. One who has gone beyond all this, he is called man of wisdom, and whose wisdom is established on the one-pointedness. Okay, now clear?
So in this case, so if you say like for logically and analytically, for a Chitta Prajna, so then his intellect is a very pure intellect, unaffected by ego.
Yes, that is what to be known as steadfast intellect. That is steadiness of mind. It is almost on the borderline of that side and this side.
LOC.
LOC. Very, very pure, sattvic, sharp, and one-pointed intellect. And that side is the kingdom of truth. This side is kingdom of nature. This side all the adversities, and that side the kingdom of silence. So that borderline is known as this kind of purest, sattvic, one-pointed, sharp intellect. So, tomorrow we shall see. Today enough. Tomorrow we shall see यह सर्वत्र अनभिस्नेह तत् प्राप्य शुभाशुभम नाभिनंदति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. one who is uninterested at all in adversities, who is neutral, who is indifferent towards all this. This we shall say tomorrow. Hari Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadguru Bhagavan ki jai. सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। कृष्ण परमात्मा की जय। गीता माता की जय। हरि